What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated two-division world champion, currently the WBO super middleweight, 168-pound world champion, superstar British boxer, Billy Joe Saunders, and his father, Tom Saunders, are not happy once again with the way things are playing out with their upcoming fight this Saturday night against four-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer who currently is the WBC, WBA super middleweight world champion superstar boxer Saul Canelo Alvarez. With that said, they have now stated that they know that Canelo Alvarez, well, he plays tricks and he used tactics with his hand wraps and with his gloves in big fights. And the reason he hasn't been caught doing so is because he only does it in the absolute biggest fights. And he has his gloves tailor-made for his hand wraps because he essentially, allegedly, he fixes his hand wraps to where he has an advantage, and he has his gloves tailor-made to compensate to be able to fit those hand wraps, okay? And he also stated, Billy Joe Saunders and Tom Saunders are stating that, once again, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn, who promotes Billy Joe Saunders, but oversees the DAZN fighters, Eddie Hearn, once again, just like former cruiserweight undisputed world champion turned heavyweight title contender Oleksandr Usyk stated, at the last second, they switched the ring size. You got it. They switched the ring size. Oleksandr Usyk, he just recently complained that this was the same situation that took place with him when he fought Derek Chisora. Now, Billy Joe Saunders is saying that they have done it to them. They have shrunk the ring down to an amateur size 18-foot ring. And they stated that they will absolutely not fight in this fight if the ring is not adjusted to a bigger size that they agreed to in the contract. And also, if they get into the dressing room. So Tom Saunders, Billy Joe Saunders' father, is stating that a lot of fighters that fought Canelo Alvarez, a lot of fighters that were, dealing with Canelo Alvarez, they understood these tactics that he used with his hand wraps and his gloves, allegedly. He stated that a lot of times the opponents in these big fights, they get in the dressing room and Canelo Alvarez already has his hand wrapped. And they stated that they didn't get the opportunity to witness it. He stated that if we go in Canelo Alvarez's dressing room and we see them using the tactics that that we've been told that they use, then we will absolutely not walk into the ring. So they're letting it be known that they will not walk into the ring if Canelo Alvarez's hand wraps are already wrapped, or if they don't unwrap them and rewrap them while somebody's privy to see what's going on. And if they think that his gloves and his hand wraps are tailor-made to the issues that they believe that they were told have been taking place in Canelo Alvarez's big fights, then they will not walk either. They said, he stated that, don't get them wrong, they want to have this fight. They want just like everybody else. He stated that they were initially told that there was only going to be 17,000 fans allowed in attendance, 16,000 fans allowed in attendance, and then that number changed from 16,000 to 70,000. But it was nothing they could do as far as the purses. He stated that obviously the purses should be much bigger if you're going to have, that much more fans. Okay, that's a lot difference. Okay, that's 50,000 fans, 54,000 fans that allowed to attend that initially wasn't planned in the plans in the negotiations and in the contract. So they did their purse based off of the amount of fans that the revenue that was coming in, and now they changed it. But Canelo Alvarez has been adjusted. Okay, he also made it very clear that they are not happy with Canelo Alvarez meat situation, and that we know the WBC has up the level of clenbuterol. That's initially what was in the tainted Mexican meat. They have upped the levels of amount that you can have so that Canelo Alvarez essentially could eat the meat. And he's saying that we know Canelo Alvarez loves his, juicy, extra juicy. He put an emphasis on juicy meat out of Mexico.
3 days before the fight, and we're still going on with this issue. We're professionals. Billy Joe's here to win. Matchroom's got to pull a finger out, speak to Eddie Hearn's fighter, Canelo.
So you see, he stated, we're going to have Eddie Hearn talk to his Matchroom fighter, and he put Canelo, because we know that he promotes Billy Joe Saunders, and Canelo Alvarez is his own promoter within this fight. But you see what he stated, that we will absolutely not walk, and this fight will not take place if things are not on an even playing field, okay? This is what he's saying.
And there was a few people telling me a few tricks of the Canelo team, right? Because we all know they like the Mexican beef, and we all know they like it juicy. And they normally stop that about 3 weeks before the fight, in small...
So you see what he's saying. He said, we know that they like their Mexican beef, and they like it extra juicy. We know he's, indicating that, Canelo Alvarez, is having an unfair advantage. So, as far as the situation with Canelo Alvarez and the clenbuterol situation, allegedly. So now let's listen to him when he starts to get into the glove situation.
In Vegas, I spoke to a lot of people. I was there for 4.5 weeks. A lot of boxers, a lot of trainers, a lot of ex-boxers, and there was a few people telling me a few tricks of the Canelo team, right? Because we all know they like the Mexican beef, and we all know they like it juicy. And they normally stop that about 3 weeks before the fight, in small doses.
So you see, he's saying that, we know that they stop, when they stop eating the Mexican meat over from Mexico, we know the indication that he's getting at, but here's where he makes mention of Canelo Alvarez using tricks with his, allegedly, with his hand wraps and with his gloves.
He likes his Mexican beef, very juicy, right? And the whole complete gym is known for that. And another thing, I was speaking to one fella, and he said, right, and he was an oldish guy, and he said about his hand wraps. I said, what do you mean? He said, man, check his hand wraps. He said, in big fights, he overwraps his hands. I said, yeah. He said he has his gloves made to compensate for the overwrapping.
So you see, he says a couple of ex-fighters and a couple of ex-trainers, they told him to be cautious of his hand wraps and the way he wraps his hands, and how he, has his gloves tailor-made to fit his hands. He double over wraps them. So essentially it's very, very thick, allegedly, and it's hardened, and essentially it makes it, a harder punch. Okay. So this is what he's indicating. Okay. So, he says that, a fight night, if this is the case, they will not fight.
One of Billy Joe's team, the same as far as I'm aware, he can do the same in the dressing room while his hands are being wrapped. So her man can check to see if they're overwrapped, if it is true. Check the gloves, the same as their man can do with Billy Joe. Right, there's no problems there on her side. And if he happens to wrap his hands before her man gets in, then we don't enter the ring until he takes his gloves off, and he, and we check.
So you heard what he said. He says, so if they get in the ring, and if they go in the dressing room and he already has his hands pre-wrapped before they could witness it, and he doesn't take his hand wraps off and his gloves off and things so they can be privy of him wrapping their gloves, from the beginning to the end, then they're not walking until he does so. You can look at this in multiple different ways. Obviously, a lot of people are going to look at it and they're going to say, well, they're having a lot of excuses, and they having built-in excuses because they're not confident they're going to win. But then you could look on a different angle, and you could say, well, there's a lot of people that have complaints, but they're not willing to walk away from the fight. And like he stated, the ring being shrunk to 18 feet, he says that's not something that's going to happen. So they brought that to everybody's attention, and they want that adjusted as to what it was agreed to in the contract. See, these are little things that maybe Billy Joe Saunders may not have realized or recognized until he made his ring walk, like Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk had the same complaints when it came to the fight with Derek Chisora. He said once he made his ring walk is when he realized that the ring was significantly smaller than what they contractually agreed upon. Why? Because that suited Derek Chisora more so than Alexander Usyk. Why would that be the case? Because Alexander Usyk is the WBO mandatory challenger for Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn, they want to stage an undisputed match between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And Alexander Usyk was stating that he would absolutely not take any step aside money. So they gave Alexander Usyk is of the belief that they wanted to give Derek Chisora every opportunity possible to be victorious in that fight so they can remove him out of the equation. Okay, and now these are the same complaints that Billy Joe Saunders is having. He had the same complaints when it came to Derek Chisora's hand wraps and gloves, that being Alexander Usyk. Now Billy Joe Saunders, he has the same complaints when it comes to Canelo Alvarez. So there's a lot of similarities, allegedly, that's taking place here. So Billy Joe Saunders and his dad, Tom Saunders, they said that they're going to stand on their square. And if all of these things don't get resolved, before they make their ring walk, they will not be fighting. So we got to see how this plays out. Now, we know Canelo, he initially responded to the judges. And now Billy Joe Saunders, his father, Tom Saunders, they stated that they have two other judges, and not the judges that they want, but they have two other judges. And they stated that you can guarantee if it goes to the decision that one of the judges is going to automatically favor in Canelo's side. But he stated that they're confident that the other two judges that they know about, they don't know who the third judge is going to be, but they know who the other two judges are. And they're confident that they're going to give them, a fair shake in this fight. So we got to see how this plays out. And that's a legit concern, because we saw the wide score margins. All you got to do is go back to the Floyd Mayweather-Canelo fight, in which Floyd Mayweather won every single round against Canelo. And yet one of the judges saw a draw. Nobody saw a draw, not even Canelo Alvarez. When the scorecards was read, Canelo Alvarez himself, he leaned back and he said, "That's not right. That's incorrect. I didn't win this fight." And it wasn't a draw. But one of the judges saw it as a draw. And we know the open scorecards with Austin Trout saw him far ahead on the scorecards that nobody else saw. And we know that the Erislandy Lara decision, when 80% of the boxing world thought that Erislandy Lara won the fight, one of the judges scored it and had Erislandy Lara only winning 3 rounds. Now, how you having 80% of the people thought Lara won the fight, but one of the judges only seen Lara win 3 rounds, okay? We know in the 2 Triple G fights, there was, some conflict there, okay? So we notice there's a history of these things taking place when you're dealing with Canelo and Canelo Alvarez fights. And Billy Joe Saunders is coming to win, and he stated Caleb Smith didn't come to win. He stated that a lot of fighters that come to fight Canelo Alvarez, they don't come to win, but that's not the case with Billy Joe Saunders, and they want to share fate, and they want to share fate, they want a fair shake, excuse me. So we got to see how this plays out. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section, let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Hey, this is Ebony Bridges, Blonde Bomber, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.